Well, what's up, everybody? Good to see all of you all today. And we're so very honored and so very glad to be back with you for Callings and Careers. That's what this is, Callings and Careers. And we're just honored to be here with you all today. Got my co-host, partner in career crime. How about that?
All legal career crime, all legal, of course.
Yeah, all legal stuff. All legal and all holy. There's no
Amen.
craziness and none of that going on. But we're glad to have you with us, Jessica. Again, we're back. Man, we had an awesome discussion 2 weeks ago talking about emotional intelligence and why that is such a important conversation about what we're facing in our world today, what people are dealing with on their jobs and navigating and workspaces and professional environments and all those kinds of things. And so good to kind of jump back into part two of that conversation of revisiting emotional intelligence is what we're talking about. Before we jump into that, Jessica, just take a quick minute and tell everybody who you are and what you got going on.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to talk to everybody out there in cubicle country and in those corner offices. I'm Jessica Canty. I am your life and career strategist. I have a passion for helping melanin millennial women who want high achieving careers. So I love talking about all things career, and then you can mix in a little mental health in there. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to jump in.
It always is you that introduces me to something that I've never heard before. Cubicle country.
Cubicle country. That's where a lot of our audiences live in, and they are serving Christ in their cubicle. Perhaps you're not in cubicle country. Maybe you're in that corner office. Wherever you find yourself today, we want to say hello to you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Isn't it still true that the corner office is reserved for the bosses?
It's supposed to be, but a lot of cultures have shifted and changed. But so if it's the bosses or those who have bosses, I'd love for you to lean in and, glean for our conversation today.
Yeah. Hey, Jessica, do you watch a lot of Netflix or watch any Netflix at all?
I do. I'm guilty.
I started watching a few weeks ago the series Suits. Have you watched that at all?
Isn't that the one that the princess was in? Meghan Markle, wasn't she in that one? Oh, yeah. When I saw it, I said I was going to watch it. So now you're encouraging me to watch it. Is it good?
It is good. It is good. It's long if you haven't started watching it, right? Okay. So I'm nowhere near like even 50% into the series because like each season is like 15 or 16 episodes. Ooh. And I think I need to go and look. I think it's like 8 or 9 seasons. Wow. So yeah. So anyway, I say that to say that the other day though, I was watching one of the episodes and was like, man, they need me and Jessica to come on here and help them.
Oh, now I'm gonna run and go. That sounds like it's binge worthy. Maybe some juicy topics for us to talk on here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check that out.
It is. Mm-hmm. So talking about the corner office made me think about that because the last episode I watched, a couple of the attorneys they switched offices, and there's a whole story behind that. But anyway, so that's Jessica Canty, y'all. Y'all check her out if you need some career advice, career coaching, particularly if you are navigating single parenting and other kinds of realities. Jessica can help you with that and can give you such great wisdom. And her services are free, but her time is not.
Oh, I love it.
How about that?
I love.
Yeah. So check Jessica out. There's her website right there, and you can find her on there and also see some of her services. Here's my website. You can check me out there, ChristopherJHarris.com. And of course, I'd love to connect with you as well, particularly for those of you that are in ministry looking for ministry opportunities and ministry roles. We'd love to have you connect with us at either my website there or this website here, diversechurchjobs.com. We'd love to have you connect there. Or if there's people that you know that are looking for ministry opportunities, that's part of the reason why we're doing this, because we believe that as we engage in Christ-centered career coaching conversations, that you will be better as an individual who brings your full faith to your workplace, and you're able to thrive there and do well. And that's why we even engaging in conversations and topics like this, where we're talking about revisiting emotional intelligence. One more thing before we jump in. Jessica said something off air that just blessed my socks off. And I think it's worth you all as our audience hearing it as well. And that is this, that she's got this statement that she has in one of her rooms that she sees each day. And it says, today is a good day to have a good day. Did I say it right? Uh-oh, I think we lost Jessica. Oh, I did. Okay.
It's a good day to have a good day. Absolutely.
Today is a good day to have a good day. So I want to challenge you all. Find ways to get your mind right. Find ways to make confessions and declarations over your life that will affirm what you want to see, how you want to engage the day. I don't think words alone can change your life, but they can actually help in the direction of your life. And so I think that's really, really important. Anything you want to add to that, Jessica, before we jump in today?
Oh, absolutely. I was saying off air that my family often pokes fun of me because every room in my house has some type of words on the wall, and I think it's important that even in the Bible talks about the power of words, what
Mm,
happens when we speak, and how our tongue can build or it can destroy. And so, for those who are looking to further their career, I ask you the question: what are you putting in your environment to
mm,
both be biblically sound, but also to encourage you? Because it's easy to watch television and see things that are discouraging, but you definitely want to make sure you're affirming. Today,
yeah.
like I was hearing you, it's next to my toothbrush. It's a good day to have a good day. If I were to put a Bible verse on there, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and I will be glad in it. So I think it's very important that we speak those words over our day.
Yeah. Come on, quote the Bible. Let's go Bible on them. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
um, as we were talking about revisiting emotional intelligence last episode, we talked about introduced this conversation of emotional intelligence, and in particular last week, just last time, you talked about essentially we walked through 5 components of emotional intelligence,
Mhm.
particularly at work. That's what we talked about
Absolutely.
and kind of broke into. And again, for those of you that are jumping in, this is your first time embracing or being a part of our conversations with Callings Careers. Our commitment is to help you discover your calling and develop in your career. Discover your calling
Mhm.
and develop in your career. And as you develop in your career, it becomes very a very hard place for you not to run into the need to have discussions about emotional intelligence. And again, this is something that I don't think will ever go out of style. I think it's apropos for whatever season you're in. And so here are those
Mhm.
components that Jessica mentioned. I'm going to mention them, Jessica, and then if there's anything you want to add to that before we jump into today, feel free to do that.
Okay.
So the 5 were self-awareness. And Jessica talked about that's the ability to recognize and understand your moods, emotions, what drives you, as well as how they impact other people. We talked about
Mhm.
self-regulation. That is the ability to control or redirect, your impulses or your moods, the propensities to suspend judgment for a moment, to think before you act. We talked about empathy. That was the third one. That is the ability to understand the emotional makeup of other people. That's the skill of treating people according to their emotional
Mhm.
reaction without judgment.
Mhm.
Fourth, we talked about motivation, which was the passion to work for reasons that go beyond, just money or status. What is our actual, what is the thing that drives us to achieve and to do well? And then fifth and finally, it was about social skills, and that is how do we become proficient in managing our relationships, building our networks, building rapport with people, engaging and having and finding maybe even common ground. So that's what we covered last time. Jessica, anything that I missed or anything you want to sort of review or cover additionally?
Absolutely. So, if you caught last week's episode or the last time we met, this is not like warming up leftovers. This is a deep dive into what we talked about yesterday. So, please do not turn off because you caught this last week. If you didn't catch last week, go watch last week or the last episode we did, and then watch this one because it's vitally important. We talk about what the concepts are, and I'm excited to give you some tips and pointers around how to do that. How to walk that out in your day to day life, how to improve if if you found, you know, you feel like we stepped on some of your toes last time we were together, we're here to mend some of those crunched toes and give you some tips on how to address them.
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, I feel like I was going to say we're podiatrists. You talked about the crunch toes, but I think also in some ways, Jessica, we're trying to be as best as we can midwives for people, helping
Mm-hmm.
to push them into a place where their reputation is more intact, their influence is
Mm-hmm.
great, their connections with people, interactions with people at work get better. I mean, these are all things that all of us can constantly be better at and get better at. And so today, we really kind of lean into this conversation around some of the core competencies
Mm-hmm.
of emotional intelligence. But then, as you said earlier, we want to give very, very practical tools. And in some way, y'all, the question we want to answer today is, man, essentially, how do you actually become more self-aware? We want to
Yeah.
help you become more self-aware. Okay. So here's the big picture. There's essentially four main buckets or four quadrants of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The first one is self-awareness. And there's some overlap to the list that Jessica provided for us the last time. There's self-awareness, there's social awareness, there's relationship management, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
self-management. So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack these one by one quickly, and then also work to give you as much practicality as we can. Um, I do want to go ahead and make one practical point that we made last time, and I made a note of this, Jessica, because it was just so powerful. You gave everybody the WAIT acronym. The WAIT acronym.
Mm-hmm.
So give that again, give the WAIT acronym, and then unpack it for a moment. And that's at least starting off. We're giving everybody the practicality of this already.
WAIT stands for why am I talking? That slows
Mhm.
your brain and body down long enough to make sure you're crafting a response and not a reaction when someone says something. So slow down and ask yourself, why am I talking? Have a goal for your words so that they don't come back and destruct or, tear down what your overall goals are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why am I talking? WAIT, right? And I think that the value of that, Jessica, is that probably every single one of us, me included, I don't want to speak for you, but my guess is that you would probably be in that number too. But all of us probably at some point in time or another did not wait. We spoke too soon. We engaged too quickly, and in
Mhm.
some ways may have, looking back on it in hindsight, said, "Man, I probably should have waited. I should have probably asked myself, why am I talking?" That kind of thing. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you're an external processor, this might be particularly challenging for you. If you're that person that's an extrovert and you enjoy getting other people's ideas and you get energized when you're around other people, it's very easy to talk, to think before you speak. But even
Mm.
internal processors have to slow down sometime and say, okay, before I say this, I know I've given it a lot of thought. That doesn't mean everyone else has had the opportunity to. So how can I say this in a way that's going to contribute to the overall goal being completed, not just to have my opinion spoken.
That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. That's good. So self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship management.
Mhm.
And each one of these has, a list of things underneath them. So let's jump into self-awareness first of all. Self-awareness is essentially a great metaphor, I think, for this is where you clean your mirror and see yourself clearly,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
You clean your mirror and you see yourself clearly. And so when you become more self-aware, not only are you emotionally self-aware, but you have an accurate self-assessment of yourself. You know where you're strong, you know where you're weak. You know if there's certain times of the day where you're moody or irritable. You know where there's certain times of the day, they call it natural biorhythms where you're
Mhm.
more energized than others. You know what things, how often have we engaged in activities, whether that was going out with friends or going with family members or watching the show or whatever, that we just knew it didn't energize us. We knew we probably shouldn't have, but we did anyway. But then we regretted it later,
Mhm.
and that was in some ways maybe we're not as self-aware. And I'm not
Yes.
suggesting that you never do that, right? Because there are times that we do need to take one for the team, or
Yeah.
sometimes where we need to kind of network or extend beyond our own selfishness. That's not what I'm suggesting in any way, but I am saying that our self-confidence and our effectiveness in life is connected to our self-awareness. So that's a little bit there talking about that. Go ahead.
So absolutely, so I would say start off looking at your overall wellness in order to become more self-aware. So have I would say take a couple of hours on a Saturday, or whatever day of the week works for you, and sit down and really look at the state of your wellness. Because if there's any inefficiencies in those spaces, we often overcompensate, or we are quick to be defensive because of our insecurities in those spaces. So sit down and say, okay, how am I doing financially? Because if you're not doing well financially, you're going, and when people are talking about raises, when people are talking about promotions, when other people are getting joyous news, you might be a little bit bitter, a little bit, a little salty because your finances aren't where they need to be. So that's what you need to do. Sit down and look at your overall wellness. How are you doing financially? How are you doing physically? How are you doing emotionally? Consistently, when I talk to clients, some of the questions that I ask them before we even really get into the real work of mindset shifts is, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Do you have any white spaces in your day? A lot of us feel like our worth is in when we're stretched thin. So when we have things that are back to back to back, like, oh, I'm worthy, and that's our self-awareness. It's based on the demand of my skills, versus having those times to have rest periods so that I can slow down and say, oh, I am a little bit tired. Let me slow down for a moment so I don't snap at my spouse, so I don't respond to this email in a nice, nasty way. But if you're building things back to back to back and you don't have that white space, it becomes very hard to be self-aware, and it becomes very easy to become unethical in our practices. So self-awareness, again, sit down, look at your self-awareness, look at all of your elements of wellness. And if you find that there's some spaces that you need some help around, seek professional support. It's a wide range, no matter what your budget is. A lot of companies now are offering EAP services, therapy groups. You could take off during the week to go do some type of wellness activity, but take it seriously to get that professional help. You don't have to figure it all out. So even though it says self-awareness, you want to seek a professional to help you get that even deeper level of insight.
That's so good. That's
Yeah.
so good. Jessica, I read something the other week that has really kind of just sat with me for a little bit, and been thinking about this thing. And that is, so in our culture today, we have more and more people who are embracing therapy, going to counseling, things of that nature. And that's a good thing, right? We commend our culture for being able to take the mystique and the taboo nature of therapy and counseling away from that, and giving people the framework that even if you're intact or healthy, there's times when you still need to sit down and talk to a therapist or a counselor. But here's what that article said, that what some people, and you're in this space, so you may be able to speak to this better than I can, but there are some people who are using therapy as a scapegoat for actually doing the work in their own life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not the therapist for you if that's your goal. I think you might want to find another therapist because in the very first consultation I talk to my clients, I say, I'm going to give you some confronting truths. I'm going to challenge your thoughts. I'm going to ask you to consider this. I'm going to ask you to consider some of the concepts that you've built in your life and look at it in a different way. So yeah, depending on your therapist, some therapists, they're out for money. So they'll let you talk and talk and talk and talk and don't see progress. But it's no return on investment to take off of work, to use your insurance, to spend all that time if you're not going to do something about the information.
Wow.
It's no return on investment. So you can try to fool yourself and think, well, I can tell them I'm going to therapy. I tell my boss I'm going to therapy, but there's no change in behavior if you're not fully invested in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So good. So the first category is self-awareness, emotional self-awareness, accurate self-assessment, right? And this helps you to navigate your own self-confidence, which then moves us to the second area, which deals with self-management, which is about self-control. It's about being able to adapt and adjust. It's about your personal optimism, your resiliency. Do you take initiative? And I find as a person that has had to hire people, unfortunately had to help push people into a new season and help them transition out of a role, as a counselor and a coach to help people, that this is probably one of the toughest of the 4 components, because I find that people struggle with adaptability, and I find that people struggle with being optimistic when they get hit with a life reality, right? So let's just use an example. A person gets a bad review at work, so their quarterly review comes up, and I shouldn't say bad, right? Let's not use the word bad. They have some areas of growth opportunities. That's what the quarterly review says. Opportunities for growth, right? They look at this and then they get down and get stuck because the boss or the supervisor gave them 2 or 3 opportunities for growth and development. And now here it is 3 weeks later, and they're walking around with a chip on their shoulder, slumped down, shoulder slumped down, and woe is me, life is not fair, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm wondering, like, how can we help people navigate and learn how to become resilient when it comes time to bounce back? And I don't want to be dismissive of, sometimes there are like legitimate stuff that people get hit with, but how do we help people get resilient? How do we help people really, from a practical perspective, become adaptable and work on their own self-control, self-management?
Absolutely. A lot of times in those, especially, okay, I am putting to the side toxic bosses that are just making up things and, out to get you. If that's the case, then that's something completely different. You probably shouldn't be in that work environment anymore, because you're not going to be able to grow in that environment. Yep. So putting toxic bosses aside, I would say that if you have a performance review and they're telling you the areas of improvement and you're stressed about it, you don't have a stress problem, you have a system problem. Wow. What is your system? What system have you developed to address those things that they mentioned? So if in fact it's your, whatever your different jobs do different things. Some people do your 90 days, your 6 months, once a year type of review. What have you done with that review? Did you sit down and say, okay, the fiscal year started in January and I just got my review in December? Have you mapped out the first quarter? What will you do? Have you asked those direct questions of your manager? How do I improve this? What resources are available for me to improve this? Have you decided that based on what you've seen in your work environment, because sometimes this happens where some work environments don't provide that one-on-one coaching that you would need in order to accomplish those goals? Have you thought about creating your career executive board? We've talked about it a few times here on Callings and Careers, but it's easier to carry the chip, but it's harder to do the work. And so you have to ask yourself, am I going to carry this chip and walk around and see other people progress and, get promotions and things of that nature, or am I going to get to the work? And even in the case of the toxic boss, you can still ask those direct questions, and that will let you know if you do have a toxic boss. If you're asking directly and they don't have any anything in particular, it's not feedback, it's more toxicity, then you'll know, okay, that it is the boss, but I need to make sure I create my exit plan so I can continue to build my own wellness.
That's some wisdom you just shared. So powerful, as you were talking, Jessica, especially when you talked earlier just a few minutes ago about the systems piece. You have a systems issue. Very well-known book now that's been out for the last few years, Atomic Habits, by James Clear. And James Clear says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes. You do not rise to the level of your goals, James Clear says, you fall to the level of your systems. And so I think so often we disconnect like the vision from the systems, and it's the systems that helps you get to the vision, get to the destination. And so even if you think about that at like a car, you got to put fuel in your car, you got to have oil in your car, you got to have transmission fluid in your car, you got to have air in your tires. What's your systems that you have in place to make sure that those things are all together? What's your system to pack your bags to make sure you're not missing anything when you load the car up? All those kinds of things. And it is thinking through those things systemically that helps you to get to that destination. So that's really powerful. Go ahead. You look like you're going to jump in.
Yeah. I was going to say the other thing with self-management is thinking about your morning and evening routine. I know that might sound strange, but a lot of times we set the tone for our day. So like you said earlier near my toothbrush, it says it's a good day to have a good day, but that's intentional about how I start my day and how I end my day. So are you the person that's reaching for your phone, trying to check emails before you put your feet on the floor? Are you checking your bank balance before you brush your teeth? Are you scrolling through social media before you even wash your face? That's a system error. That means your brain is already on overload. It hasn't had time to catch your breath. It's already thinking about everybody else's opinions before you slow down and assess what's best for your day. So part of that self-management is taking back the first 15 minutes of your day and the last 15 minutes of your day. Or else you're going to think that somebody else is a task manager, because the world knows how to be a task manager for you. They will manage you. So if you want to start to manage yourself, you need to start thinking about, what are my morning and evening routines, so that I know, okay, you know what? It's not the boss. I just haven't finished my coffee yet. If you're like a person like me, listen, between 10 and 3, that's when you're going to get the best part out of me, right? Anything before 10 and anything after 3, it might be like a B average. I might get a B average, but I know, I'm cooking with grease between 10 and 3, right? But that was a part of like creating morning routines, because I still have to be a parent, be an entrepreneur. I have to do all these things before 10. But a part of that self-management is saying, I'm going to start my day in a way that's going to set myself up for success. It ended in a way that I can continue to restore and renew.
Yeah, that's good. Another book recommendation that speaks to what you just talked about. Carey Nieuwhof has a book called At Your Best. And in the book, quick summary of that, but I still think you should read it. Go get the book, even if you listen to the summary. And Jessica, to your point, you just said, hey, I know my window. My window, you said, is 10 to 3. So essentially in the book, what Carey Nieuwhof, and again, these are things that helps you with your self-awareness. These are things that helps you with your emotional intelligence. He says, everybody has during the day, a green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. And essentially he's saying in the book, you don't want to put very important things on your schedule when you're in your red zone, because you're just not going to be efficient. You're not going to be effective in getting things done. You want to put the most important things on that day in your green zone. So like you said, I can be cooking with hot grease and that kind of thing. So that's really powerful. That's really powerful.
Absolutely.
So number one, first section we talked about self-awareness. Second section we talked about is self-management. Here's the third section, and that is social awareness. Social awareness. This deals with organizational awareness. So, you can't just say that you know God, but you're working on a job and you never study and know the organization.
That part.
You got to know the organization. Like, what's the history here? What's the culture of the organization? What are the values of the organization? What are the unspoken rules? Who are the gatekeepers in an organization? What are gatekeepers? The gatekeepers are the people that may not have the big titles, but they absolutely are influencers in that space. They're going to know what's happening. They're going to know what's going on with people, with decisions, et cetera, et cetera. And they are some of the unofficial leaders. And you need to be able to have a great relationship with them, because otherwise you cut your legs out from underneath you really fast if you don't have a great relationship with the gatekeepers. Where's the organization headed? So when you're proposing ideas, does that even fit within the vision of the organization, within where we say we're headed? So this whole notion of social awareness is also about empathy. Do you have the empathy, the compassion, the wherewithal to recognize where people are in different seasons of the organization? And then finally, I think social awareness is also about service, because how are you helping in various spaces and seasons to actually serve the organization in a way that moves it and the people forward? And I'm going to borrow from my co-host here. We're going to go Bible on you. In Luke 2:52,
come on.
Jesus said, the Bible says this, and Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with both God and man. So you can't grow in favor and in stature with man if you don't study man. You don't study environment. And there's so many other verses that I could reference that speaks to this whole notion of becoming, having a social awareness, a sober self-awareness, where you're working and the places that you're working around. So, yeah, I didn't mean to get too preachy, Jessica.
No, you were. I was about to pull out my pen and paper so I could take some notes. Absolutely. So when it comes to social awareness, you have to know your unique professions. Just the way that they are communicating, the way their social graces are, the etiquette of your specific profession. So, for instance, if I was working with a client and they were seeing another career coach, I'm gonna have a conversation. I may talk to them and say, "It's okay if I communicate with that other career coach, so I can just get some understanding." And even as a therapist, I may have to consult another therapist based on what was shared with me. But I wouldn't do that in a way that would be disrespectful or rude, because I've learned the etiquette of my particular profession. So, I can't speak for everybody's profession out there because I haven't worked every job, but I know there's certain nuances, like you should email a certain person before you go up the chain of command. Be careful about CCing people and BCCing people. All of those little social things, be very, very careful about that. And be very careful about reply all. I've heard some horror stories about reply all. That's about some etiquette as well. And empathy really can be the fast track to promotion. Quick story, one day I was coming into the office and I heard two, I guess she's like 3 or 4 bosses up. She's no longer with the particular agency I was working with at the time. And she was coughing hard. And I had some cough drops in my bag. And I just popped in and I dropped a few on her desk and she smiled. And I said, "Good morning, have a good day." Walked off. The next day she had put on my desk a brand new bag and waited for me at my desk and said, "I really appreciate that you heard that I had a need. I didn't have to express it." Now, it ruffled a few feathers of some coworkers around, but I was like, I would just hear somebody coughing and I had some cough drops. But that's what empathy looks like. Are you paying attention to the needs of people around you?
Wow.
And that can lead into what you were talking about in terms of service. Like, that's how you show innovation. That's how you show that you care and you're motivated to do the work, when you're paying attention to the needs of the employees, the employer, and whomever their client or customer is.
Yeah.
You want to get promotion really quickly? Tell them where they're missing a need. And I guarantee you that's an easy way to get a raise.
Why do you think some of the coworkers, why do you think some of the other people's feathers were ruffled?
I think based on that incident, I think they thought that perhaps I was being a suck up, or like, perhaps it's like, no, I'm just being a good Christian girl. You heard somebody coughing. The Bible says you don't just tell somebody you can pray for them, do for them. If you have something to do for them, do for them. And I just happen to have, and I think also it was because of the type of cough drops too that the lady liked them. It was the what do they call them, the fruit breezers or whatever. It wasn't the traditional ones that are at the bottom of your grandmother's purse, the gathering one. This was a nice cough drop. And so, you can't really think about, all the murmurs and things of that nature. If I was doing what pleased God, that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah. As you were just explaining that, I think one of the healthy perspectives to have on this discussion about emotional intelligence, specifically for this, especially for believers, those that have a conviction and have a faith that they live by. We have to be committed to doing right, regardless of whether or not others do right or wrong themselves.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think like our this is going to be so bad in terms of English. I hope my English teacher doesn't watch this. But our rightness is not conditional upon anybody else's rightness or wrongness. That's bad English, but man, that's so good.
Yeah, but it's good faith when you put some righteous. So just put the just in there, our righteousness. That'll clean it up for the English teacher.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, Jessica, I think too many people are committed to right as long as others are committed to right, and I think that's dangerous. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's groupthink. That's what makes mobs. That's what makes mobs. That's what makes groups of people ignore the plight of other people. So yeah, you have to be really careful about that groupthink.
Yeah, that groupthink is dangerous. So I think part of what we're challenging those that are watching this, will watch this, that are listening in, is, have you gotten to a place in your emotional intelligence journey, or in your professional maturity, or in your spiritual maturity, where you're committed to doing right regardless of the conditions?
Yeah.
And being committed to doing right to people who you may not feel deserve it.
That part.
Because That's what we signed up for
Mm-hmm.
when we signed up for this faith.
Yeah.
Right. So our target audience are individuals that work in the workplace, work in marketplace ministry, corporate spaces, what have you. And our conversations are centered around how to help you figure out how to flourish in your faith in the workplace. There go my bars again. Come on.
Mic drop on that one.
How to flourish in your faith in the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're laughing, but we're very serious because a part of the challenge that the world has today with individuals who are Christian in their workspaces is that they are Christian in word, but not often in deed. Their lifestyle has to match what they say. So from an emotional intelligence perspective, y'all, we have to become really serious about doing it the Bible way. And, some things that we call persecution is not really persecution. Some things that we say, people don't like us or our boss. Like accountability doesn't mean that a person doesn't like you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they have the assignment to hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to just believe we got to become comfortable in taking the high road, in initiating the reconciliation, in letting things go. We have to take the initiative on treating people right, even if they've not earned that, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, the list could go on and on with that. I see you over there nodding. Go ahead.
I was just saying, no conditional Christians in the workspace. You can't be. That's it. That's it.
No conditional Christians in the workspace.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Either you are or you're not, because people are looking to see that. They love to point out hypocritical Christians. So can't be based on conditions.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so we got self-awareness, we got self-management, we got social awareness, and then this fourth and final category is relationship management. So these are all ways to enhance your emotional intelligence. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and now relationship management. So relationship management deals with your influence. It deals with how you develop relationships with others, how you develop others, how you use your gifts, talents, abilities, experiences, personality to help make the organization or make the people better around you. Because if you're not helping to make things better, then you're a hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're not helping to make things better. This is relationship management is also about conflict management. So you're learning to, this is a major truth that I just want to deal with really fast. We have to get to a place, I think, where conflict doesn't have to be so toxic. Did I say that? Yeah. Conflict doesn't have to become so toxic. There's some people who've been socialized to think that to deal with conflict, I got to blow the place up and I got to literally destroy your character.
Yeah.
And that's so extreme. And that's just so not wise. We don't have to devolve to name calling and, other childish like behaviors. I think we can really figure out because conflict management is a skill to be learned.
Yeah.
So you want to respond to that at all?
Absolutely. When it comes to relationship management, I love that you mentioned that it's about influence as well, because you just never know who's coming behind you, who's going to need to be able to say your name and know that that's going to be something that's going to give them favor in any work environment or any workspace. I really wish in the early part of my career, I knew that. I definitely set the standard for my the excellence that I wanted to have in work, but I didn't realize that I was building a name. So when people call me and ask me for help, or when someone mentioned my name, it was attached to favor for them as well. So relationship management means that you do have to make sure that no one is saying you have to be a kiss up. No one is saying you have to be friends with everybody. And I'm saying, and be very careful, because we're not talking about joining a clique. There's a difference between joining an office clique in relationship management. That's a completely different conversation. As a matter of fact, that's the antithesis of relationship management, to get caught up in that office clique stuff. So you really want to be careful about that. But can people say that you are a person of excellence? Can people say that you are compassionate? Can people say that you're understanding? Can they say that you're flexible and adaptable? And are you learning enough to influence and bring people along? So relationship management looks like building your career executive board, but being prepared to be on somebody else's. So are you ready to be somebody's role model, mentor, coach, or sponsor? That's really what relationship management looks like.
Yeah, that's so good. You know, as we've been walking through this today, and even thinking about the last session when we had part one of this conversation, you know, it dawned on me, Jessica, that you really can't get a job without having a list of references.
That part.
And the conversation for me then, if we're talking about emotional intelligence, is have we set ourselves up where anybody that we've worked with can be on our list of references? Like anybody at any given point that we've worked with, we would feel comfortable saying, yes, you can call them or you can talk to them.
Yeah.
And I think if we are not comfortable saying that, I think we really need to reevaluate our emotional intelligence and how we're engaging in the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. Even if you had to get terminated from a job, how you get terminated, how you respond to that, how you engage in that is a part of your reputation.
I'm so glad you said it, because I mean, some people are laid off, and it's not because of their professionalism. It's just, because of the industry that they're in, they could be laid off. But I've worked with clients who've been laid off and walk into another job, and those who struggle. So this goes for even for people who are perpetual students. Like if you're, you love getting degrees, so do I. I don't know how to stop getting, more information. But now I'm seeing a lot of things come across my desk for references to get into educational programs. So even if you're the person who wants to stay in school, and I'm here for it, but you even have to have a recommendation to get in a lot of like post undergrad programs. Someone has to say, yeah, I vouch for you.
Yep. Yep. That's so good. That's so good. And we want to have a lot of people, that are vouching for us and that kind of thing. Let me just very quickly, because our time is getting away from us here. So we've gone through the 4 components. We talked about, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. These are all the components around emotional intelligence. But I want to very quickly, Jessica, if we can, I just want to provide a quick list of, you just used the word antithetical or antithesis. There are some things that we can engage in that shows lower emotional intelligence. Immediately rejecting criticism, being in a leadership position but acting like a dictator, failing to listen well, failing to communicate well, an inferior attitude, lack of delegation, manipulation in leadership, quick to find faults, consistently negative, being very rigid and inflexible, and then having an elitist or superior attitude. Those are all some elements that speak to, not being as sober-minded or self-aware as we need to be. So anything you want to add to that list, or anything else that Jessica you thought we were going to cover and didn't cover, or that we made notes about?
Absolutely. I would say I would take that list that you just mentioned and talk to someone and say, am I doing these things and dressing it up as something else? So like when you were mentioning about being negative, there are a lot of people who don't think they're negative. They think they're a realist. They're a realist. I'm not negative. I'm not pessimistic. I'm a realist. But if your reality is only a negative thing, if your reality doesn't have hope and optimism, you might need some help with that. So I would say definitely, if you didn't catch that list, you want to pause it, write it down, jot it down, all those things that he mentioned, and ask yourself, am I doing this and justifying it, calling it something else? So I'm not a dictator. You have to stay on top of people. Nobody really thrives in micromanagement positions or spaces. So be really careful. If you're saying that's not me, I don't understand why he didn't mention that list. Ask yourself, am I calling it something else? And so that I can justify it and continue to operate in it.
That's so good. That's so good. It is true. It's true in the sense of like how we try to manipulate people and circumstances to our advantage and try to use scripture or principles from scripture to convey that. Well, everybody needs the truth. Yeah, but maybe you're not the one to give that to them.
Uh-huh. Don't forget the in love part. In love part, though. Like
Oh
truth
yeah.
in love. Uh-huh.
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're not always the one that is asked by God, to
Absolutely.
be the one to speak that truth to somebody. And quite candidly, oftentimes, especially depending upon the relationship that you have with the person, it may be better for you to simply pray for the outcome of a situation rather than you trying to interject yourself and then get involved in it. So that's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Listen, our next conversation, y'all, we're going to be jumping in, talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about mental health, seasonal affect disorder, burnout, those kinds of things. It's going to be really, really good to engage in that way. Jessica, any final comments or final remarks as we get ready to close out for today?
You can do it. We know we have faith in you. We have faith in the Lord. You can do it. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what's going to happen when you implement what we talked about today in your career.
I thought about the little engine that could. Do you remember that story?
I think I can. I think I can. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So good. Well, listen, y'all, this is Callings and Careers. This is Callings and Careers, and we're so honored to have all of you with us today. We're here on a regular basis, having Christ-centered career coaching conversations to help you get better in every single facet and area of your life. This is my co-host, Jessica Canty. You can find her at jessicacanty.com. You can find me at ChristopherJHarris.com or at diversechurchjobs.com. And our goal is for you to flourish in your faith in the workplace and to discover your calling and develop in your career. We'll see y'all the next time. Thank y'all. Peace.